Good afternoon and welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me and the Blue Corona team today for our webinar on pay-per-click budgeting and really how you can maximize your lead flow during seasonal shifts. My name is Brandon Doyle and I'm the marketing manager here at Blue Corona. And joining me today as a guest panelist who's going to walk you through all of this great information is our pay-per-click team lead, Olivia Duke.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Olivia. We're excited for what you're going to walk us through today. And again, for everyone in attendance on today's webinar, we appreciate you sticking with us here this afternoon. But before we do jump in, we do have a few administrative pieces to cover. We will be dedicating time at the end of today's webinar for some questions, but you don't have to wait until the end of the webinar to submit your question. So at any point, if we're talking about a certain topic, certain slide, feel free to click the little triangle next to the word questions in your GoToWebinar panel and submit your question throughout the webinar. Again, we'll dedicate some 10, 15 minutes, however much time we need to answer everyone's question at the end. And we will also be recording today's webinar. So everyone in attendance today, and if you have to drop off early, that's okay too. We hope you're able to stick with us for the full hour here. But if you have to drop off early, we will be sending around a recording, a link to the recording of the webinar so you can rewatch it on demand at your own convenience when it's right for you. So again, if you have questions, click the little triangle next to where it says questions in your GoToWebinar panel. And with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. So who is Blue Corona? Who are we? Why should you listen to us? So Blue Corona is a full service digital marketing agency, and we really help our clients accomplish three critical business objectives. Number one, we help our clients increase leads and sales. As a marketing vendor, as a marketing agency, as your marketing partner, it is our job to help get more leads into the door and make sure that your sales are growing over time. If not, we're not doing our job. But at the same time, we help our clients accomplish their second business objective, which is commonly optimize their marketing costs. Okay, today you might be investing in a whole plethora of strategies, but do you actually know the ROI from each of those marketing channels you're investing in? Pay-per-click, SEO, traditional ads like billboards. What sort of ROI are you getting? And at Blue Corona, we really help optimize your marketing campaigns so they drive the highest ROI at the lowest cost for you. And lastly, we help differentiate brands online. It's our job to convey your real-world expertise for whatever product, service you offer in the area that you offer them. It's our job to convey your real-world authority and translate that online, so that when a prospective customer is maybe researching your business or a couple of your competitors' business, there is no doubt in that customer's mind that your business is the business they need to hire or the business that they need to buy from. Okay, so we help increase leads and sales, optimize your marketing costs, and differentiate your brand. And we've been doing that for going on 12 plus years now. We were founded in 2008 and have nearly 90 employees across our two office locations, one in Maryland and one North Carolina. But we have a lot of cool other things about us that really make today's webinar very applicable to you as the audience member. Number one, our niche is home services. We work with more than 250 home service contractors who trust us with their marketing objectives month in and month out. We're also a Google Premier partner. So we're going to talk a lot today about pay-per-click. Olivia's going to share some very insightful data and actionable takeaways for you. But that Google Premier partnership does give us access to different beta programs, industry and market data that Google holds close to their heart, and something that's really cool, we call it our bat line to Google. Okay, so we do have a dedicated support team over there at Google who can help us pull this insights, and troubleshoot any campaigns that you may be experiencing. And Olivia and her team, again, really focus on home service contractors running pay-per-click campaigns for the home service industries, and they're managing over $2 million in monthly ad spend on behalf of all of our clients. So you'll come to find out here shortly from Olivia how smart she is, but at the same time, we're managing a lot of pay-per-click campaigns for our clients. So all the data that you're going to see today, some of it is coming from our Google partners, some of it comes from our own client examples to talk to you about some seasonality. As I mentioned, that Google Premier Partnership status, that is the highest distinction Google gives its partner companies. It's reserved for the top 2% of all marketing agencies in North America. So we're extremely proud of earning those credentials and earning Google's trust. But we are also a Microsoft advertising partner, a Nexstar strategic partner. Nexstar is one of the leading home services business coaching organizations in the nation, and a proud supporter of the Air Conditioning Contractors of America. And we've also been on the Inc. 5000 list 8 times in a row, and that's earned us a spot in the Inc. 5000 Hall of Fame. So we're super proud of that. So not only are we growing our clients' businesses, but our business has grown alongside them. And that's been a very rewarding journey to go along. So today, again, we're going to explore pay-per-click budgeting, and we're going to look at how your pay-per-click budgets may be determined today. When your pay-per-click provider, whether it be Blue Corona or another company, how do they come up with your pay-per-click budget? How do they recommend what you should spend per month? So we're going to look at budgeting, how it's determined, and then we're going to add in some seasonality, okay? When your busy season is, your leads are through the roof, okay? What does that do to cost per lead? What does that do to your lead flow? And at the same time, what about when things are slow and maybe consumer demand isn't there? What do you do then? And we're going to walk you through 2 different pay-per-click budgeting frameworks that Olivia will share with you today. And we'll do a quick recap, and then we're going to tell you all about how to combat that seasonality. So when your leads from pay-per-click or Google ads or Bing ads might be a little bit lower, how else can you generate leads and stay visible in front of your competitors? All right, Olivia, I'm going to flip the screen over to you, and the floor is yours. Folks, just bear with us one moment.
Thank you, Brandon. As Brandon mentioned, my name is Olivia Duke, and I am the PPC team lead at Blue Corona. To give you a little bit about my background first, before Blue Corona, I was managing PPC campaigns for Fortune 500 companies in the telco space. From there, I transitioned into working for national brands in the home services space, primarily in lawn care and HVAC manufacturing. So in those positions, I learned how local strategy is so important to home services and the heavy focus on getting non-branded traffic. That's what led me to Blue Corona, where I help drive our PPC processes and strategy today. So before diving into seasonality, we're going to touch on budgets and pull the curtain on the factors that our team considers when setting that initial budget. So there are 4 primary factors that we consider, and the first is what services that your business provides. This eventually translates into the keyword footprint that we're going to target. So whether or not you manage, HVAC services, or you also do electrical and plumbing work, that determines how wide of a net that we can initially cast and how much search intent we're even going after. Additionally, your service area plays a big factor. So whether you are a local or a regional business, if you're in a metro area with a high population density, or you support, many rural counties, that's going to play a difference as well. And your service area directly ties into your market competition. So not only asking the question of how many competitors are in your area, but also how aggressive are they investing in paid search today? Our team has some insights into that and can help structure a budget that makes sense. Finally, the growth goals of the company are very important in how we would set a budget as well. So how much of the market are you hoping to gain? And are you looking to fill capacity, or are you simultaneously growing your team and need additional lead volume to support that? What's important to note is that all of these factors are dynamic, and they can change over time. So your services that you provide might change and adapt as your team adapts, and the competitors are adapting in your area as well. So we are constantly monitoring to make recommendations as all of these factors change. So the main focus today isn't on that initial budget recommendation, but how you should adjust for seasonality in your business. Now, many of you don't need me to explain the seasonality of your business because you live it every day. This can be seen in your historical lead and sales data, and you also experience it just from hearing how often the phone is ringing versus quieter months. Now, if you've made significant changes to your operations, such as how your team answers phone calls, we recommend looking at trends within your Google Analytics or Google Ads accounts to understand how search volume varies month to month. We also recommend taking a look at Google Trends. Google Trends offers a more objective view of seasonality that's not impacted by your changes in marketing. For instance, if you're pushing up or down, that can influence your impressions, where Google Trends will show you at a macro level what's happening in the industry in your region. You can view Google Trends just by visiting trends.google.com. Finally, our team can help you compile all of the resources above, and through our Google Premier partnership, we have access to additional industry reports, which I'll be highlighting today. So what I'm showing you here is seasonal data from our Google reps, and this is showing different industries at the national level. So the darker colors represent a higher volume month for search terms, and the arrows represent when that search volume is peaking or when it is at its lowest. So as you can see, these three industries all peak in different months, and we see different trends happening from industry to industry. In addition to varying by industry, different regions also play a big factor on seasonality, especially for industries like HVAC that are heavily influenced by weather patterns. So here are two examples using kind of the same format where they're both HVAC industries, but looking at Phoenix specifically and looking at Minneapolis. As you might expect, Phoenix has its highest volume month in the summer, while Minneapolis has that peak in the winter based on the weather they experience in those areas. So when considering whether you should use a seasonal budget, we recommend looking at the difference between your peak month, your highest month of traffic, and your lowest month of traffic as a measure of how seasonal your business is. So the chart on the left shows the national HVAC monthly search trends plotted out. So we measured the level of seasonality by taking the difference from July, their peak month, and February, their low month. Here on the right, you see how that metric stacks up against other industries, with HVAC, windows, and moving being the most seasonal, very good contenders for seasonal budgets, while electrical and plumbing show the least difference from their highest to their lowest month. So as mentioned before, you as a business owner or a marketing director, you understand the seasonality of your business. The value of seasonal budgets doesn't necessarily come from the extra volume that's happening at that time, but the fact that there are other changes happening in your funnel that have a big impact on the efficiency of that volume. So that's what we're going to dive into now. Taking a look at these charts, it shows that your hot season isn't necessarily your more competitive season. So the charts here are showing search volume in the yellow-orange color, and the blue squares show the average cost per click by month for these industries. Similar to the charts I showed before, the darker colors indicate higher volume or higher CPC, and the lighter colors represent lower. So what you see here is that the trend for CPC counters the trend for search volume, with the peaks and the low points happening in the opposite seasons from search volume. So there are two key factors that really drive this trend. The first one is that in higher volume months, companies are reaching capacity and they're pausing their PPC campaigns more frequently. So the fewer number of competitors creates a lower minimum bid floor that you need to show in the space. Additionally, take the perspective of Google. So during months where click volume is at its highest, there are a ton of searches coming in, they're generating a ton of traffic. They can afford to charge less to drive the same level of revenue from their advertising. So maybe by setting that floor lower, they're able to keep more players in the space and keep up volume from their sense. So as you can see, even though volume is increasing, the actual cost of getting those clicks is decreasing at the same time. Another factor is that higher search demand often translates to higher intent. So here's an example from an HVAC client based in Florida. As you'd expect, their search demand has a large peak in the summer, specifically in July. And next, we're going to layer in the conversion rates for this same client. So this is the ratio in the leads per click by month for the same client. And as you can see, conversion rate also shares its highest month in July, meaning not only are we capturing more searches, but those impressions are converting at a higher rate. The combination of the lower cost per click that we talked through and this higher conversion rate for seasonal businesses means that in their hot months, not only are we going to capture more leads, but the cost per lead is going to decrease as well. So now let's walk through an example of how a seasonal budget might play out. Using the same data, the same client and the same kind of conversion rate trends, we demonstrated what performance would look like with a flat monthly budget on the left versus a seasonal budget on the right. It's important to note that both examples have an annual budget of $120,000. And on the left, this balances out to a flat $10,000 per month, shown with the blue dashed line. And on the right, we've mapped out the budget to factor in the volume differences and the performance differences, setting March as low as $4,000 and July as high as $15,000, also demonstrated with the blue dashed line. In purple, you'll see the estimated number of leads based on the budget set and the conversion rate trends we touched on. So as a result of these two different budget strategies, we are able to generate more leads annually at a lower cost per lead for the same annual budget by using that seasonal budget. So the fact that we are catering to the best performing months with more budget, while shortening that lower performing month, we're able to maximize leads on the whole. Now you may be looking at this thinking, but I need the leads in March and April to fill capacity, not July. And we completely understand that there are fixed costs of keeping staff and you need to keep them occupied and driving business. So while our team is always going to optimize to get the most leads for your budget, what I hope you get from this is that the industry trends for cost per click and conversion rate help demonstrate why it's often easier to drive lower cost per leads in the higher search volume months versus the shoulder seasons. And it's especially important to consider if you're relying on paid search for the majority of your lead volume. We want you to understand that it will be more costly in the shoulder seasons to generate that volume of leads. And so later in our presentation today, Brandon is going to talk through additional strategies that can supplement PPC and capture more leads in those low search volume months. So even if you decide to take advantage of a seasonal budget to maximize leads, we also have examples of how you can support that shoulder season. Pulling this all together, here's an example of a seasonal budget that we recently pitched to a client that was handling plumbing and HVAC services in the Texas market. So understanding that HVAC is highly seasonal, while plumbing demand remains fairly consistent, we actually split out the budget by service to keep plumbing flat while adjusting up HVAC spend to take advantage of the seasonality. Finally, to recap what we've discussed, there is no right or wrong method when choosing between a seasonal or flat monthly budget, but here are some factors to consider when you're deciding between the two. So for a seasonal monthly budget, that is when we are aligning monthly budgets to reflect consumer demand. The best results with a seasonal budget come from companies who do see large differences in monthly demand and experience a high level of seasonality. It's also important that these companies have capacity for additional leads. We acknowledge that any spend that goes toward a lead that you don't have availability to book is, of course, wasted spend we want to avoid. And finally, for a flat monthly budget, this is when you're keeping a consistent budget regardless of consumer demand. This is best for companies that already do have a limited or hard capped capacity. And we understand that there is a benefit here for financial planning to keep marketing budgets and fees consistent. Just know that with some of our larger spend clients where fees can fluctuate more drastically, we do have options to help with that and keep fees more consistent. So definitely talk to our team about that. Now that we've talked through how you can use seasonal budgets to ride the wave with efficiency and have hotter volume months, Brandon is going to talk through how we can help supplement those lower demand months and drive more revenue in the shoulder season.
Awesome. Thank you, Olivia. Thanks for walking through pay-per-click seasonality and those two frameworks. That's very interesting to kind of see the difference in lead flow there and cost per lead by aligning your budget with that seasonal demand. All right, so Olivia has now talked through who it could benefit most from a seasonal pay-per-click budget, the advantages of a seasonal pay-per-click budget. Again, there's no right or wrong answer whether or not you go the seasonal budget or elect to invest in a monthly or flat budget where your spend is staying consistent. But regardless of your flat or seasonal budget, it's very important to recognize that you do still have a shoulder season or a season where lead flow, particularly through pay-per-click, simply isn't as high as it is during your busy season. So you need, in order to keep your technicians or your team off or on the road and constantly busy, you need to generate leads from elsewhere. So how do you do that? Well, there's one important thing that I want to share with everyone today, and that's that digital marketing is a game of real estate. Okay, and you need to own as much of that property as you can. And when thinking about your marketing and specifically your digital marketing campaigns as a game of real estate, I often like to compare it to like Monopoly. You know, in Monopoly, you purchase properties, and the more properties you purchase, you can build houses, hotels with the end goal of winning the game. And winning the game means when someone lands on a property you own, they pay you money and you become wealthier. And ultimately, if you're the winner at the end of the game, we all know what happens. You have the most money. And the same is true for search engines like Google and Bing and Yahoo. The more real estate that your company owns or occupies on the first page of search engines, whether it be through pay-per-click, SEO, local services ads, or even things like social media platforms, the more online real estate you own, the more website traffic, visits, and leads your company will generate. So how do you do that, particularly when lead flow is low during the pay-per-click season? So I've got three distinct strategies up on the screen here that can be applicable to any business. Okay, and we're going to first talk about paid media. So like pay-per-click, pay-per-click, you are paying, as the name says, per click. Okay, so you are paying every time someone clicks on your ad and visits your website, regardless if they pick up the phone and call you or not. Okay, so that is a paid media strategy. Display advertising is a great secondary paid media strategy for your company to implement. And it's really designed to help you target new customers through the Google Ads and Google Display Network platform. And display advertising comes in really two forms. Number one, what we traditionally call display ads. Okay, think of display ads like online billboards, so to speak. Okay, you might be browsing or catching up on last night's scores. Well, not right now because sports are not playing right now, but you might be browsing ESPN and see different ads in the sidebar of your web browser. Okay, some of those may be display ads, and you're receiving those ads because due to the granular ad targeting, the really hyper-focused ad targeting Google Ads and the display network offers, you fit a demographic that company wants to sell to. So for your business, if you are a moving company in Nashville, Tennessee, you want to fit the demographic in your display ads. You want to target potential homeowners. So probably male and females, ages anywhere maybe 25 or 30, all the way through 55, 60, whatever your demographic is. And the ad targeting allows you to show visual ads around the internet, as well as remarket to people around the internet through display advertising. You might have heard remarketing ads or retargeted ads from your Blue Corona account manager, or maybe through your current pay-per-click provider, but display is great to build your brand, build that topical authority, and it can reach up to 2 million websites and 90% of internet users. Now, as a local business, you don't need to be found on 2 million websites and in front of 90% of internet users. But again, going back to that very hyper-focused targeting availability through Google Ads and their display advertising platform, you are able to help supplement and build your brand, but supplement leads as well through display and remarketing ads. And similar to display and remarketing ads, paid social media is a great way to get in front of homeowners who may not be actively looking for your services. A recent study released by TechJury earlier in 2020 found that it's estimated that the average adult spends 2.5 hours per day scrolling social media. So that means if they're not on Google, searching for HVAC contractor near me, you now need to go and seek those people out. And paid social media is a great way to do that, regardless if it's through Facebook, Instagram, if you're a B2B company or you're a contractor who does commercial work, LinkedIn could be a viable option for you. And paid social media is great because unlike organic social media, paid allows you to reach a greater audience. When we talk about organic social media, sharing a post to all of your followers on Facebook, that only reaches about 1% of your total audience. Whereas through paid advertising, you can reach a broader audience and really dominate a local service area while still building top of mind awareness, generating some leads, and overall building your authority online. And lastly, YouTube advertising. YouTube is another Google-owned platform. It's the second largest search engine in the world. And many homeowners or local customers go to YouTube and search how-to videos, DIY videos. They're looking for videos potentially in the industries that you work with. They're looking for HVAC help. They're looking for landscaping help, and so on. And YouTube is really kind of like billboards on steroids, if you will. If you think about a billboard on the side of the highway as you're driving down, the company who invests in that billboard has zero control over the type of people and demographics of people that are driving down that highway. So you're plastering a billboard up on the side of the highway, hoping that qualified customers see it in the split second they drive by, remember your name, and remember your call to action. Whereas YouTube, again, YouTube leverages the granular ad targeting that Google's display network offers, but it's online, and you have more control over who sees your ads and can help supplement traditional advertising like TV and radio, etc. So those are 3 proven paid media strategies for you to go ahead and combat this pay-per-click seasonality. But what about earned media? Maybe you're tired of paying per click, or maybe you say, hey, Brandon, I only have X amount of dollars. I only have $1,000 to spend on advertising per month, and I need to make sure, it's best used to generate leads. Well, okay. Some of those strategies that you can look at are more of our organic, or said another way, earned media. Okay, you're earning your spot. You're investing over time to earn these positions instead of paying just to be visible. So one of the best ways to do this is to own more real estate through SEO, or search engine optimization. Okay, SEO is the process of constantly tweaking and making adjustments to your website so that ultimately you can improve your keyword rankings and go from ranking number 10 on Google to number 1 on Google, or maybe you're buried on page 2 or 3 and you need to be moved up to page 1 and into that top 3 of Google. Okay, it's all centered around improving your keyword rankings to ultimately improve website traffic and help you increase leads and sales while still building a brand and authority. We have run various analysis over the years at Blue Corona that show an investment in branding opportunities like billboards, like YouTube, et cetera, often does result, not all the time, but often does result in increased organic website traffic. Okay, so someone sees your billboard on the side of that highway or watches your YouTube ad and then Googles your company name. Okay, that is still authority and brand building, but it's organic authority and brand building. And staying on the organic train, you also should be supplementing your paid social media with organic social media. So instead of boosting Facebook posts or running Instagram ads, you are now just consistently publishing across the web. And you might be publishing product information to help educate your customers. You might be publishing company information to share more about your great company that you run, own, or operate. Okay, so organic social media is really a great way, again, to insert yourself where your followers, where your existing customers already are spending their time to help, again, build that top of mind awareness, generate some leads, and educate and really engage with your audience across the platforms. And lastly, as we talk about earned media, one of the benefits of any sort of advertising campaign is that all advertising campaigns are list building opportunities for you to market to in the future. So you've spent maybe years investing in pay-per-click and SEO and some other forms of marketing, and you've generated thousands of calls and web form submissions, and you now have all of those customers' information, their name, their email address, most importantly, their phone number, etc. And you can leverage email marketing to make sure that you are hitting the right customers at the right time with the right message to help improve your marketing campaign or email marketing campaign performance. So let's say, for example, you are a plumber and you use ServiceTitan as your CRM of choice, okay? You can go into ServiceTitan, as Olivia mentioned earlier, not only look at the seasonality of your leads and sales, but also you can extract various insights from whatever CRM you operate with or field management software you work with to segment your lists. And customer segmentation is key. Okay, so maybe you have a list of expiring maintenance agreements that's going to expire here at the end of June. June of this year would be a very timely, very relevant time to send those customers maybe a couple different emails spread out over the course of a couple weeks, reminding them to not only schedule service, but to renew their maintenance agreement and educating them about the benefits of that maintenance agreement and what proactive servicing of their equipment can do for their indoor home comfort. Okay, so email marketing, no matter what platform you use, if it's MailChimp, Campaigner, Salesforce, or Pardot, it's great to, again, educate your customers, generate leads, especially for B2B companies. Email is usually a top lead generator for B2B companies. And again, continue to building top of mind awareness and your brand's authority. So we've talked to this point about earned and paid media, but those are really about being visible to your prospective customers. But what about trying to get more out of your existing marketing spend today? Okay, we talked about objective number 2 here at Blue Corona that we have for every client, which is to optimize your marketing costs. And we really have debuted 3 great services that help you do that. So the first one is Smart Selling. Smart Selling is a customer service training program that has been developed over the years here at Blue Corona, and it's really designed to help your CSRs improve their booking rates. So hypothetically speaking, if you generate 100 phone calls per month and your CSRs book across their team 40% of all calls into booked appointments, that means out of those 100 calls, you're generating 40 appointments. Okay, but through world-class customer service and customer service coaching, you are able to then increase that booking rate. And maybe instead of 100 calls and only booking 40 of them, maybe you increase that booking rate 10% and you are now booking 50 calls per month as opposed to 40. And that's really designed, again, to leverage the people who are already engaged, already showing interest in your company, or as we like to call it, hot or warm leads. This next one, lead recovery, is a new-ish service here at Blue Corona. So here at Blue Corona, to help accurately track, report, and measure ROI for our clients, we have set up over the years one of the industry's leading phone call tracking capabilities for the home service industries. And what that entails is not only tracking and recording the audio recording of that phone call between the customer and your CSR, but dispositioning those leads as things like new customer lead, existing customer lead, maybe it's a spam or a marketing call, because we want to evaluate what is the true ROI from your business. And lead recovery was born out of our team listening over the past 12 years, over 3 million phone calls on behalf of our clients. That's a lot of phone calls, a lot of time spent listening, and we learned a lot from those 3 million plus phone calls, both good and bad. And lead recovery is a service, again, designed to target customers who are already in your pipeline. They picked up the phone and called you, but maybe your CSR mishandled the call. Okay, maybe it's a price shopper and they didn't do that. Your CSR didn't do everything that they could have to try to convince that customer that your company is the right company for them. Maybe the call was accidentally dropped when your CSR transferred it to the install manager to try to schedule that person, and no one ever called them back. Okay, so for whatever reason, a lead does not actually book an appointment. Blue Corona, through lead recovery, is flagging that lead. Okay, we quote unquote recover the lead for you. And what that entails is our team, who listens in near real time, automatically hears, or they hear the call that wasn't booked and there was an opportunity to book, and we say, hey, you should call that person back. So what we do is we are able to get key customer information like their name, their email, their phone number into the hands of the manager or the dedicated point of contact at your company with the insights to call this person back, why the lead was not booked, to try to give you a second chance at closing that business. And we've seen fantastic results from our lead recovery service. Of all of our clients investing in lead recovery, 40% of all of unbooked leads, okay, 40% of unbooked leads are being flagged as recoverable or eligible to be recovered, and 10% of all unbooked leads end up being recovered across the board. So imagine if you could add 10% more install appointments or 10% more appointments or book jobs to your company without ever spending a dollar more on your marketing. Okay, this is another great way to leverage who's already within your marketing pipeline, who's already showing interest in your company, to try to convert them into a book job. And lastly, Blue Corona Chat. This is an AI-driven website chat services with both automated chat capabilities, so you can completely let the artificial intelligence and the brains behind it interact with customers. And your CSR reps do have the option to jump into a conversation in real time and take over the chat. Okay, so they can be manually talking with your prospective customers, answering their questions, or the chat will do its thing and walk the customer through all of the lead collection information, gathering their name, their phone number, email address, as well as things like their service, their city, or their zip code. Whatever you define as the information you need, we can get it in there for you. And again, that chat lead comes through to you as an email lead, just like a web form submission would. So you're able, again, to capture more website visitors and turn them into more calls and more leads for you. And that brings us to the conclusion of today's webinar. Before we open up the field for questions, I want to talk next steps. So if you're a Blue Corona client and you think maybe seasonal pay-per-click budgeting or one of the other strategies we talked through today may be right for you, call your account manager, get in touch with them, send them an email, give them a call, or your digital marketing consultant. reach out to your digital marketing consultant or account manager, and they'll be able to work with you to help determine if a seasonal budget is right, and also work with our team behind the scenes to implement that. And if you're not a client, that's okay too. We love talking with people who aren't clients actually. And right now, Blue Corona is giving away a free pay-per-click analysis after this webinar. So if you think that seasonal budgeting might be right for you, or maybe the ROI, return on investment from your current campaigns managed by another provider simply aren't where you want them to be or need them to be to hit your company growth goals, give us a call. We'd be happy to take a look at what's going on with your pay-per-click campaign, share any insights, and potentially work together. And you can reach out to us two ways. You can give us a call at 800-696-4690, or you can contact us online at bluecorona.com/contact-us. So let's open it up to questions now. What questions does everyone have for us here today about seasonal pay-per-click budgeting? All right, Olivia, you ready? I already got a couple trickling in.
Sounds good.
All right. So John wants to know, can he apply seasonal budgeting to something like Google local services ads?
Yes, that's a great question. So when we talk about the seasonality in search demand, it really impacts anything that's tied to the search volume. And so Google local service ads are also triggered by the search volume for those services. And so absolutely, we would expect the same sort of peaks and valleys that happen in your paid search campaigns to also happen in Google local service ads. What's great about Google local service ads is that you're only ever paying for that call and that lead. So having the extra spend set aside for when you anticipate those peaks is absolutely a great thing to plan for.
Thank you, Olivia. Stephanie wants to know, she says, my pay-per-click company always tells me that my PPC campaigns are limited by budget. Oh no. I can't afford to spend more than I already do on advertising, so what should I do?
Yes, so we don't want to be that company that sounds like a broken record saying spend more, spend more. We understand that is a common complaint people have when we start managing their campaigns. If you simply can't afford to spend more than you already are on paid search, first off, it's important to have that conversation with the account manager you're working with. Because we do have levers that we can pull. So earlier when we were talking about how we set an initial budget, we talk about the services provided by you as being a key factor. What we can do is we can hone in on which services provide you the most valuable leads. Let's just market to those with this budget so that we can really take advantage of it. Or even what areas could you really focus on? If there's a part of town that generates higher value leads, like let's narrow in our targeting a little bit. So those types of conversations can help us make sure your budget is working for you if you really just don't have the flexibility to keep pushing up.
Awesome, thank you, Olivia. Mike wants to know, he says, I'm a plumber, my business is consistent throughout the year. Can I still apply seasonal budgeting, or is it even worth it?
Yes, so if you do have a seasonal service, most of the time we will recommend keeping that budget consistent. And as I mentioned before, we'll be monitoring any other factors in your area that may cause changes, such as your market competition, or if you have additional capacity, we can push to expand in that sense.
And Brian wants to know, he said, I need more leads in March and April than I do in July. Seasonal budgeting doesn't accommodate for that. So what do you recommend I do? I can feel this one, Brian. So at the end of the day, pay-per-click is a channel that is constantly changing. In some months, you may need additional budget if there's an increased demand. And in other months, you may not be limited by budget. But regardless, we hear you. You need more leads during that shoulder season or during your slow season than you do in July when there's a lot of demand, maybe if you're an HVAC contractor. Again, what I would recommend is really sit down and evaluate your lead and sales data. If you're a Blue Corona client, again, we'd be happy to do that with you. And if you're not, sit down, evaluate your lead and sales data and see when those peaks and valleys are in your seasonality. And then look at the same time, the ROI coming from each of the marketing channels you're investing in. It doesn't always have to be digital. Take a look at the ROI from the direct mail pieces that you dropped last month. How many calls did that generate? How many booked appointments? How much revenue did it generate for your business? And really try to maximize the effort coming from those campaigns, the best performing campaigns during those shoulder seasons. All right, Olivia, Tom wants to know, is seasonal budgeting only applicable to contractors and home service companies?
That's a great question. There are several different industries that are all impacted by seasonality. A lot of what we touched on with HVAC, that's really reliant on weather patterns. But other examples like the moving industry, their peaks are in the summer just because kids are out of school, so people are more likely to move during those times. Higher moving also means people are switching over services, so we see those trends, from internet to other things as well. One of the most interesting kind of seasonal trends I've personally dug into is the fact that people receiving their tax returns creates a peak in, the buying of non-commodity services. So people get that money in their pocket and they're more likely to purchase. So we see some peaks happening from that as well.
And one more question, unless we have a few last second questions coming in. So again, if you guys have questions that we haven't answered yet, feel free to enter them in now before we wrap up today's webinar. But Olivia, as of now, looks like we got one more. Is seasonal budgeting, this is from Erica, is seasonal budgeting applicable to other forms of pay-per-click advertising like Bing ads?
Absolutely. Bing ads, it's very similar to what I mentioned with GLSA, with Google Local Service ads. Anything that's triggered by a search will definitely follow those similar seasonal trends. So if you are increasing your Google Ads budget to correspond with seasonality, it's definitely recommended that you apply the same method to Microsoft ads or Bing ads.
All right, Olivia, that looks like that wraps it up for questions. Again, folks, we want to thank you for spending your afternoon today with Blue Corona. We appreciate you taking the time out of your day. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. If you're a client, contact your account manager or your dedicated digital marketing consultant. They'd be happy to have this conversation with you and figure out what sort of pay-per-click budgeting framework would be best. And if you're not a client, again, contact us online at bluecorona.com/contact us, or give us a call at 800-696-4690 for a free pay-per-click analysis. Thanks, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.